What if the history you learned in school was only half the story? What if the comforting tales of Thanksgiving feasts and friendly encounters were just a thin veil, hiding a much deeper, often heartbreaking truth? It's a question about the very land beneath our feet, and the people who were here long before anyone else. This is a question that challenges us to look beyond the simple narratives we were given as children, and to seek a more complete understanding of our shared past. Imagine a vast library filled with millions of books. Each book tells the story of a person, a family, a nation. Now imagine someone came in and removed most of those books, leaving only a few that told a single convenient story. We are left with fragments, with whispers of a much grander, more complex epic. To find the truth, we must search and listen to voices that have been silenced. Many of us grew up with a very specific version of American history. It often starts with a brave explorer named Christopher Columbus, who discovered a new world. Then came the Pilgrims. We were told they were saved by the kindness of the Wampanoag people. We colored pictures of the first Thanksgiving, a happy meal where settlers and Native Americans sat side by side. This story is simple. It's comforting. It paints a picture of a peaceful beginning, a nation born from cooperation. It has clear heroes and a happy ending. The settlers are portrayed as bringing civilization to an empty wilderness. Native Americans are often depicted as simple, nature-loving helpers, or as obstacles to be overcome. This narrative serves a purpose. It creates a clean origin story. Behind it, conquest and profound loss. For generations, that story has been repeated. But what if it left out the most important chapters? The truth is far more complex. The arrival of Europeans was not a peaceful meeting of equals. Before we talk about wars or land, we must face an invisible killer that swept across the Americas. When Europeans arrived, they brought more than ships and weapons. Smallpox, measles, influenza. These germs were unknown to the people of the Western Hemisphere. Native Americans had no immunity, no natural defense. It was like a fire tearing through a forest that had never known a spark. Entire villages were wiped out in weeks. Imagine your neighborhood, your entire town, suddenly falling silent. Imagine 9 out of every 10 people you know. Gone. Your family, your friends, your leaders, the storytellers, the healers. Gone. This happened in countless communities across the Americas. Historians estimate up to 90% of the indigenous population died in the century after contact. This wasn't just a loss of people, it was a loss of entire worlds. Knowledge, culture, leadership, memory, all shredded. This great dying is a crucial chapter often left out of our lessons. After disease weakened many native nations, a more deliberate destruction began, the taking of the land. This was not a simple real estate transaction. For native peoples, land was not a commodity. It was the source of life, the sacred home of their ancestors. Their relationship with the land was stewardship, not ownership. But Manifest Destiny told a different story. It happened through broken promises. More than 500 treaties were made. Nearly every single one was eventually broken. When nations resisted, they met overwhelming military force. Events like the Trail of Tears are examples of state-sponsored ethnic cleansing. In the 1830s, the Cherokee, the Choctaw, and other southeastern nations were forcibly marched from their lands. Thousands of men, women, and children died from cold, hunger, and disease during the journey. This was not a migration, it was a death march. The pressure continued for centuries, pushing native peoples onto reservations. These were often the least desirable lands, unsuitable for traditional life. How did these painful truths become so buried? The story of genocide and land theft was replaced by the tale of Thanksgiving and brave pioneers. The answer lies in a process called whitewashing, a deliberate act of rewriting history to flatter the dominant culture. After physical conquest came the conquest of memory. The nation needed heroes. Native Americans were erased or portrayed as villains so the founders could be flawless heroes. Textbooks were primary tools for erasure. Hollywood's westerns created powerful stereotypes. Noble savage or bloodthirsty warrior. These caricatures denied the diversity of hundreds of native cultures. When a people are erased, it becomes easier to ignore their present problems. This erasure has real consequences: poverty, poor health, and treaty violations. A national identity built on myths leaves generations with profound misunderstandings. This is how a nation forgets important chapters of its own story. After the land was taken and the wars mostly over, the assault took a new form: the classroom. The U.S. adopted policies of forced assimilation. Richard Henry Pratt famously said, "Kill the Indian in him and save the man." The main tool? Off-reservation boarding schools. Beginning in the late 1800s, thousands of native children were forcibly taken, often sent hundreds of miles from home. Upon arrival, their lives were systematically dismantled. Traditional clothes replaced with uniforms, long haircut, native languages forbidden, corporal punishment if caught. Names were changed, everything tying them to family and culture stripped away. The conditions were often poorly funded, overcrowded, rife with disease and abuse. Boys trained for manual labor, girls for domestic service. Children were separated from parents for years. Many died from sickness or neglect. These were prisons, not learning centers. They severed the chain of cultural knowledge. Survivors returned as strangers. The legacy: deep intergenerational trauma. Generations are still working to heal. The tragedies of the past are not confined to history books. They are living realities shaping lives today. The consequences of genocide, land theft, and forced assimilation are visible in stark statistics. High poverty rates, inadequate infrastructure, crowded housing. These things are not accidents. Native communities face higher rates of diabetes, heart disease, and other chronic illnesses. The Indian Health Service has been chronically underfunded, leaving many without adequate care. Historical trauma shows up as higher rates of depression, substance abuse, and suicide. These are not just statistics, they are the echoes of violence and loss. Beyond health and economics, there is political invisibility. Many reservations face disproportionate risks from pollution and resource extraction. Modern struggles like Standing Rock show these fights continue. Despite unimaginable loss and oppression, the story is not only one of tragedy. More than anything, it is a story of profound resilience. Cultures refuse to be extinguished. Hands keep making, teaching, and preserving traditions. Tribal elders and youth use technology and immersion schools to revive languages. Each word spoken is an act of defiance and a victory. Tribes are strengthening their governments and managing resources. They are building sustainable economies on their own terms. Ceremonies forced underground are practiced openly again. Traditional ecology and medicine are being recovered and shared. Artists, activists, lawyers, and leaders are telling their own stories in their own voices. They are not just surviving, they are thriving. So we return to our original question. After exploring myths, painful realities, and resilience, we must ask, why does knowing this matter? The truth holds power. It has the power to heal, to connect, and to guide us toward a more just future. A history built on myths is like a house on a cracked foundation. Acknowledging the full story is the only way to build something stronger. For non-native people, knowing the truth allows genuine understanding of our country. It explains why treaty rights and land struggles still matter today. For native peoples, telling the truth is a step toward healing and justice. It validates lives, cultures, and histories once erased. By embracing the unvarnished truth, we learn, not to dwell but to grow. What does this history mean to you?